The smallest room in the house was the bathroom. Yet, somehow, it had become the biggest mirror of Adaeze's fears. That was where she weighed herself each morning. Where she pinched at skin that didn't used to fold. And whispered promises to eat less, to run more, to change. The blue digital scale stood by the corner, its numbers glowing like judgment. This morning, it read 78.4 kilograms. She stared. The same as yesterday. She sighed, stepped off, stepped back on as though the second try might change the truth. She tied her robe tighter and stood in front of the mirror. Her reflection stared back, patient but unkind. The bathroom had seen it all, her diets, her tears, her apologies whispered to a body that had done nothing but keep her alive. The sound of Chuka's phone buzzing in the next room pulled her back to the present. She didn't mean to listen, but sometimes silence has its own gravity. A woman's voice came faintly through the speaker. Laughter. Then his low chuckle in reply. Adaeze froze. The laughter wasn't friendly, it was intimate, lingering. She didn't walk out. She didn't shout. She simply stood there, feeling something inside her quietly collapse. It wasn't shock. It was confirmation. When she entered the bedroom, Chuka quickly locked his phone. His face shifted into calm professionalism, the kind you use when pretending nothing is wrong. "You're up early," he said. She looked at him for a long moment. "Who were you talking to?" He blinked. "No one." "Don't lie, Chuka." He exhaled. "You're doing that thing again." "What thing?" "Assuming." Adaeze almost laughed. "Assuming what I just heard?" He slipped his phone into his pocket and reached for his tie. "You're overreacting. You've been tense lately." "Tense?" She laughed bitterly. "Maybe because my husband treats me like a background noise?" He sighed, stepped forward. "Look, Ada, I've been under pressure. Work's been crazy. I can't keep defending myself from your paranoia. Then stop giving me reasons to be paranoid." He shook his head. "You see? This is exactly what I mean. You've become dramatic." She stared at him. "Or maybe you've become careless." Their eyes met for a heartbeat, his full of exhaustion, hers full of awakening. Then he turned away, grabbed his keys, and left without another word. At the office, Adaeze barely touched her lunch. Chioma watched her with quiet concern. "You didn't sleep," Chioma said. "I heard him talking to someone," Adaeze replied softly. Chioma's expression hardened. "You think he's cheating?" "I don't want to think it," Adaeze said. "But I can feel it." Chioma hesitated. "Ada, there's something you should see." She slid her phone across the desk. On the screen was a social media post from a Nigerian relationship blogger. It read, "Some men cheat not out of desire, but control. They withdraw love to test how far a woman will bend." When she begins to beg for attention, they regain power. They'll blame her weight, her looks, her attitude, but the goal is always the same: to break her self-worth. Adaeze stared at the words until her vision blurred. Chioma, what if that's him? What if this is what he's been doing? Chioma took her hand. Then stop playing his game. Adaeze looked up slowly. And do what instead? Remember who you were before he made you forget. That evening, Adaeze returned home before Chuka. The house was quiet, the kind of silence that feels staged. She stood in the hallway and looked around the family photos on the wall, their wedding picture, the framed Mr. and Mrs. plaque. Each image felt like a promise that had expired. She walked into the bathroom again, the smallest room in the house. The blue scale still sat in its corner. She stepped on it. 78.3 kilograms. Down by a fraction. But instead of triumph, she felt pity. She looked into the mirror and whispered, "So this is what he wanted? For me to shrink?" She turned away, but her reflection lingered in her mind like a ghost. Later that night, Chuka came home smelling of expensive perfume that wasn't hers. Adaeze didn't ask where he'd been. She simply said, "Dinner's in the microwave." He nodded, sat down, began eating quietly. She watched him, every bite heavy with secrets. Then, calmly, she said, "Do you love her?" The fork froze midway to his mouth. "What?" "The woman who makes you laugh at midnight." He dropped the fork, metal clattering on the plate. "You've been listening to my calls?" "I've been listening to my silence," she said. "It's louder than your phone." He rubbed his forehead. "Ada, you're making things complicated." "No," she replied. "You are." He stood up. "You know what? Maybe you should focus on yourself for once. Maybe if you took better care of yourself, we wouldn't be here." There it was. The sentence she'd been waiting to hear but hoping never to. She felt her throat tighten. "So it's my fault." He looked at her, cold, uncertain. It didn't help. The words sank like stones in her chest. He walked out, leaving her alone in the glow of the dining room light. That night, Adaeze went to the smallest room again. She sat on the cold tiles, knees pulled to her chest, tears falling silently. She thought of all the versions of herself she had tried to become: softer, smaller, quieter. She thought of the man who had once said he loved her for her soul. And she realized now that he never meant her soul, he meant her reflection. Somewhere between his words and her silence, she had lost herself. But as the tears dried, she whispered, "Not anymore." Because even broken mirrors can still reflect light. And tomorrow, she would begin to rebuild hers.